The silent defiance. The announcement came without warning. Earth's delegation stood in stunned silence as the Galactic Collective's decision echoed through the Grand Assembly Hall. Humanity is hereby quarantined to their solar system until further notice. All extrasolar colonies are to be evacuated within one standard rotation. Any vessel of human origin found beyond the quarantine boundary will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez's knuckles whitened as she gripped the polished podium. On what grounds does the collective justify this action? We have adhered to every treaty, every regulation. High Counselor Varix, their exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber lights, raised a limb for silence. The decision is final. Humanity's unpredictable nature presents too great a risk to galactic stability. You have shown remarkable technological progress, but your species lacks the evolutionary maturity to wield such power responsibly. The Zith representative, a being of translucent tissues and pulsing bioluminescence, added with practiced diplomacy, "This is not punishment, but precaution. Your kind advances too quickly, adapts too readily. The collective requires time to assess the implications." Belena felt her face flush with anger, but maintained her composure. 50 years of diplomatic service had taught her when arguments were futile. The decision had been made long before this session. And our colonies, the millions of humans who call worlds beyond Sol their home, will be compensated and returned to Earth, Varix stated. The quarantine begins in 30 cycles. When Elena returned to Earth, the reactions were predictable. Outrage, protests, threats of war. But what could humanity do against a coalition of species centuries ahead in technology and spanning thousands of worlds? Earth's modest fleet of interstellar vessels wouldn't survive first contact with even a fraction of the collective's forces. President Okafor addressed the United Nations with grim determination. "We will comply with the quarantine. We have no choice, but this is not our end. It is merely a new beginning. If they wish to contain us, then we shall use this confinement to grow stronger." And so humanity retreated. Colonists returned, bitter and resentful. The small planetary outposts humanity had established over a century of space exploration were abandoned. Monitoring stations appeared at the edge of the solar system, silent sentinels ensuring the quarantine remained intact. The official story ended there. As far as the collective knew, humanity had accepted its fate. But the truth was different. 15 years after the quarantine began, Captain Maya Chen floated in the observation blister of the ESS Defiant, watching as the camouflaged shipyard faded from view. Deep within Neptune's turbulent atmosphere, hidden from the collective's observation posts, humanity had been building stealth systems functioning at optimal parameters. Her XO, Commander Jackson, reported from the bridge. "We're invisible to conventional sensors." Maya smiled. Conventional was the key word. The collective relied on quantum-entangled detection grids, technology they believed humanity wouldn't develop for at least another century. They were wrong. "Take us out, slow and steady," she ordered, returning to the bridge. "Keep us in Neptune's magnetic shadow until we reach the jump point." The Defiant was humanity's answer to the quarantine, a vessel unlike any the collective had encountered. Neither a warship nor an exploration vessel, it was something new, a ghost ship. Its hull incorporated metamaterials that absorbed rather than reflected scanning beams. Its propulsion system left no particle wake. Its heat signature was masked by sophisticated thermal sinks. Most importantly, it carried the prototype fold drive, a human innovation born from necessity and desperation. "Approaching jump coordinates," Jackson announced. "Ready to fold on your command." Maya took her seat, feeling the familiar tension before a jump. "Initiate fold sequence." The universe outside the viewports seemed to bend. Not the violent tunnel of hyperspace that the collective used, but a gentle folding of space-time itself. For a brief moment, Maya felt the disorientation as space compressed around them. Then they were through, emeraldine light from an unfamiliar star streaming through the viewports. Fold successful, Jackson confirmed. We've arrived at the Proxima Centauri colony. Maya released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. This was their 12th successful fold, but the technology was still experimental. Each jump was a calculated risk. Status of the colony. Communications are green. They're expecting us. Maya nodded. Take us in. As the Defiant approached the hidden colony, Maya reflected on how much had changed. When the quarantine had been imposed, humanity had appeared to comply. But secretly, using the very last ships before the blockade was complete, they had seeded self-replicating constructor drones at key star systems. These drones, programmed with advanced fabrication capabilities, had worked silently for years, preparing hidden outposts where humans could later establish secret colonies. Proxima Centauri was the first, and largest, of these clandestine settlements. Home to nearly 20,000 people, it represented humanity's silent defiance. The colony came into view, not on the habitable planet the collective knew about and had forced humans to abandon, but on a seemingly barren moon around the system's gas giant. Beneath its cratered surface lay a complex of vast underground habitats, powered by the gas giant's magnetic field and completely invisible to passing ships. Director Sani is requesting permission to come aboard once we dock, Jackson said. Granted. I'm eager to hear about their progress. The Defiant docked within one of the moon's larger craters, mechanical arms extending to secure the vessel as it descended into the underground hangar. Maya felt the familiar thump as the airlock engaged. Anya Sani, director of the Proxima colony, was waiting when Maya disembarked. Despite approaching 70, the woman stood straight as a rail, her eyes sharp and evaluating. Captain Chin, she greeted, extending a hand. Welcome back to Proxima. I trust your journey was uneventful. As uneventful as experimental space travel can be, Maya replied with a smile. How are things here? Anya's expression grew serious. We've made significant progress. The fabrication facilities are operating at full capacity. We've completed 3 more vessels similar to yours, though without the full drive capability yet. And the defensive systems, better than projected. Come, I'll show you. They walked through the colony's main concourse, a vast underground cavern where artificial sunlight streamed from panels overhead, illuminating hydroponic gardens and residential modules. Children played in recreation areas while adults went about their daily routines. It looked remarkably normal for a secret settlement existing in defiance of a galactic quarantine. Anya led Maya to a restricted section of the colony, where the military and research facilities were located. They entered a secure briefing room where several officers and scientists waited. Captain Chen, allow me to introduce Dr. Kita Osi, head of our weapons research division, Anya said. A tall man with close-cropped hair stood and nodded respectfully. Captain, your timing is excellent. We've just completed the first prototype of the phase disruptor. He activated a holographic display showing schematics of a weapon unlike anything Maya had seen. Based on principles we reverse engineered from collective technology, but with significant improvements. It doesn't just damage enemy vessels, it temporarily shifts them partially out of phase with normal spacetime, disrupting their structural integrity at the quantum level. Maya studied the schematics with interest. Has it been tested? On unmanned drones, yes. The results exceeded our expectations. We're not looking to start a war, Maya reminded them. These are defensive measures, nothing more. Anya exchanged glances with Dr. Osi. Actually, Captain, there's something you need to see, something our deep space monitoring network detected 3 months ago. She activated another holographic display, showing what appeared to be sensor readings from the edge of explored space, far beyond the collective's territory. At first we thought it was a sensor malfunction, but we've confirmed it with 3 different outposts. Anya zoomed in on a region of space where something was moving, not like a ship or natural phenomenon, but like a wave, a distortion in the fabric of space itself. "What am I looking at?" Maya asked, unease growing in her stomach. Dr. Osage cleared his throat. "We believe it's the reason the collective quarantined us in the first place. They're afraid, Captain. Not of us, specifically, but of what's coming. And they know we might be the only ones capable of adapting quickly enough to face it." Maya looked from the scientist to the colony director. "Explain." "The collected species all evolved slowly, methodically. Their technological development followed predictable patterns over thousands of years. Humans are different, chaotic, innovative, unpredictable. We achieve in decades what took them centuries." Anya pointed to the distortion on the display. "And that is something entirely outside their experience. A threat they have no frame of reference for. But humanity has always thrived on confronting the unknown." Maya stared at the strange readings, a chill running down her spine. "Does the collective know about this?" "We believe so. Their patrol patterns have changed in the past year. They're pulling resources away from the quarantine line and repositioning them along their outer borders." Maya understood the implications immediately. "They're preparing for something, using us as a buffer." "Precisely," Anya confirmed. "They've contained us not just because they fear our potential, but because they might need it. We're their insurance policy, their last resort if their conventional defenses fail." Maya's mind raced. "How long?" "At its current rate of approach, 18 months, perhaps less, before it reaches collective territory." "And how long before it reaches Sol?" Anya's expression was grim. 24 months, perhaps 30. Maya turned back to the holographic display, watching the inexorable advance of the unknown phenomenon. "Then we have work to do. If the collective won't warn us officially, we'll need to prepare on our own terms." "The Defiant was just the beginning," Anya said. "We have 11 more colonies like Proxima now, all developing different aspects of our defense technology. And we've started evacuating selected specialists from Earth through the Fold network." Maya nodded slowly. "I'll need to inform the Security Council immediately." "There's more," Dr. Osei said quietly. "We've detected unusual signals emanating from the distortion. Not random, but patterned. Intelligent. You're saying it's a life form? Or a vessel?" "We don't know," he admitted. "But whatever it is, it's aware. And it's coming directly for inhabited space." Maya felt the weight of this revelation settle on her shoulders. Humanity had spent 15 years believing they were being punished, contained, held back. Now it seemed they might be the galaxy's last hope. "Keep the Defiant ready," she ordered. "I need to return to Earth with this information. If we're going to face this threat, we'll need to accelerate our preparations." As Maya prepared to depart, she took one last look at the colony, at what humanity had built in secret while the collective believed them safely contained. Perhaps the quarantine had been the best thing that could have happened to them. It had forced them to innovate, to adapt, to prepare. And preparation was what they needed now, because something was coming from the depths of space, something that even the ancient civilizations of the collective feared. Humanity had been silently defying their containment for 15 years. Now they would need to defy extinction itself. The unexpected defenders. 6 months after Maya Chen's discovery at Proxima Centauri, the approaching threat could no longer be ignored. The distortion had accelerated, consuming 2 uninhabited star systems at the edge of collective space. The mysterious entity, now codenamed Umbra by human intelligence, left nothing in its wake but dead stars and scattered atomic particles. The collective's response was predictable. They reinforced their borders, evacuated frontier worlds, and maintained their silence about humanity's quarantine. As far as the public record was concerned, Earth remained safely contained, oblivious to the coming apocalypse. Maya stood on the observation deck of Artemis Station, a massive military installation hidden in the asteroid belt, watching as the latest fleet of human vessels conducted maneuvers. Unlike the conventional warships of the collective, these craft moved with an organic fluidity, their hulls shimmering as adaptive camouflage systems adjusted to the background radiation. Impressive, a voice said behind her. Humanity has been busy. Maya turned to find Admiral Tenzin, head of Earth's Defense Force, approaching. His weathered face bore the strain of recent months. 37 ships in 6 months, Maya confirmed. And that's just from this fabrication hub. The lunar shipyards have produced nearly twice that many. And yet it may not be enough. Tenzin gestured to the holographic display, showing the latest projections of Umbra's advance. It's accelerating again. We've lost contact with our monitoring outpost in the Ta City system. Maya felt a chill. Ta City was much closer than they had anticipated Umbra reaching by now. Have we determined what it is yet? Dr. Osei's team believes it's a composite entity, part organic, part technological, operating at a quantum level we barely understand. It doesn't just destroy worlds. It consumes them, breaks them down to their fundamental particles and absorbs them. For what purpose? Tenzin shook his head. Growth, perhaps, or reproduction. We still don't know if it's a natural phenomenon or an engineered weapon. A communications officer approached with urgency. Admiral, Captain, we've detected multiple fold signatures at the edge of the system. Vessels are appearing near Neptune's orbit. Maya's hand moved instinctively to her sidearm. Umbra. No, sir. The signatures match. Collective technology. Maya and Tenzin exchanged alarmed glances. Had their secret preparations been discovered? Was the collective coming to enforce the quarantine more strictly at the worst possible moment? Battle stations, Tenzin ordered. Alert the fleet, but do not engage without authorization. Let's see what they want first. The observation deck transformed into a command center as holographic displays materialized around them, showing the approaching vessels. 7 ships of unmistakable collective design had appeared just beyond Neptune, maintaining position rather than advancing further into the system. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, the communications officer reported. It's a request for parley. Before Maya could process this unexpected development, another officer interrupted. Sir, one of the vessels is identified as the Harmonious Accord, the personal flagship of High Counselor Varix. Tenzin's eyebrows shot up. The same Varix who ordered our quarantine. Yes, sir. Put them through. The main display flickered, and the insectoid form of High Counselor Varix appeared, their compound eyes reflecting the light of multiple consoles around them. This is High Counselor Varix of the Galactic Collective. The translation software rendered their clicking speech. I request immediate communication with Earth's leadership regarding a matter of mutual survival. Tenzin stepped forward. This is Admiral Tenzin of Earth Defense Force. You are in violation of your own quarantine, Counselor. Varix's antennae twitched, a sign of agitation or possibly embarrassment. The circumstances have changed, Admiral. We seek an audience on Earth with your governing council. Immediately. Maya studied the alien's demeanor. Despite their inhuman features, she recognized desperation. You know about Umbra, she stated flatly. Varix's compound eyes fixed on her. Is that what you call it? Yes, Captain Chen. We know. And we know about your secret colonies, your hidden fleet, your preparations. Tenzin shot Maya a concerned look, but she wasn't surprised. The collected surveillance capabilities were legendary. Then you know we've been preparing to defend ourselves from a threat you never warned us about, Maya said. A threat you used as an excuse to quarantine us. The quarantine was never about punishment, Varix replied, mandibles clicking rapidly. It was about survival, yours and ours. Explain, Tenzin demanded. Allow us passage to Earth, and we will. Time is not our ally in this matter. 24 hours later, the unprecedented meeting took place in Geneva. High Counselor Varix and representatives from 3 other collective species sat across from Earth's Security Council, with Maya and Admiral Tenzin present as military advisors. For 12,000 years, the collective has maintained peace among the stars. Varix began. We have encountered hundreds of species, guided their development, incorporated them into our civilization. But twice in our history, we have faced extinction. The holographic display activated, showing a distortion identical to what humans now called umbra. The void tide, Varix continued, a quantum-level entity that exists partially in our dimension and partially in others. It feeds on energy, all energy, including the nuclear forces binding matter together. The first encounter nearly destroyed our civilization 5,000 years ago. The second, 2,000 years later, was halted only through tremendous sacrifice. And now it's back, President Okafor observed. What does this have to do with our quarantine? The Zith representative, introduced as Principal Navigator Thol, responded. Your species evolves differently than ours. Not physically, but adaptively. Most species follow predictable development patterns, millennia of small advancements punctuated by occasional breakthroughs. Humans compress this process. You transform crisis into opportunity at a rate we find disturbing. You were afraid of us, Maya realized aloud. Of our potential. Yes, Varix admitted. But we also recognized your value. The void tide adapts to any defense presented against it. The strategies that worked in the past will fail now. We need unpredictability, innovation, qualities your species possesses in abundance. Admiral Tenzin leaned forward. So the quarantine wasn't to protect the galaxy from us. It was to protect us from the void tide until we were ready. Partially, Varix acknowledged, but also to focus your development in particular directions. Isolated species develop different technologies, different strategies. Your fold drive, for instance, it operates on principles entirely distinct from our hyperspace technology. The void tide has adapted to our methods of travel, but yours may be sufficiently different to remain effective. President Okafor's expression hardened. You manipulated our entire species development without our knowledge or consent. We did. Varix's mandibles clicked in what the translators interpreted as regret. And now we need your help. The void tide has evolved beyond our ability to contain it. Our models predict total collective collapse within 2 years unless a new approach is found. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Maya spoke. You're not just here to warn us. You're here to ask for our protection. We are here, Varix corrected, to propose an alliance. One where humanity takes its rightful place among galactic civilization, with all quarantine restrictions permanently lifted. In exchange for fighting your war, Tenzin added skeptically. In exchange for fighting our war, Varix emphasized. The void tide will not stop with the collective. Earth is merely further down its path. The negotiations lasted through the night. By morning, a tentative alliance had been formed. The collective would provide humanity with their accumulated knowledge of the void tide and access to their full technological database. In return, Earth would share its defensive innovations and take an active role in the coming conflict. Within weeks, human scientists and engineers were working alongside collective specialists across a dozen star systems. The quarantine that had defined human existence for 15 years dissolved overnight, replaced by urgent cooperation. On the front lines, Maya Chen took command of the combined fleet's Rapid Response Division. Her full drive-equipped vessels were uniquely suited for reconnaissance, able to appear and disappear before the void tide could react. But something puzzled her. During one reconnaissance mission, she noticed a pattern in the tide's behavior. It seemed to recoil from certain frequencies in the electromagnetic spectrum, particularly those used in human communication systems. She brought her observations to Dr. Ose, who had established a research outpost on a moon at the edge of the conflict zone. You may have discovered something significant, he told her after analyzing her data. The void tide isn't just avoiding these frequencies, it's actively retreating from them. Why? What's special about our communication systems? Dr. Ose's expression was animated with discovery. Quantum entanglement. The collective uses straightforward transmission methods, essentially advanced versions of radio waves. But humans developed quantum entangled communications to evade their detection during the quarantine years. The entanglement process creates a unique field effect that disrupts the void tide's quantum structure. Maya's mind raced with implications. Can we weaponize this? Theoretically, yes. If we could generate a sufficiently powerful field based on these principles, we could push it back, maybe even destroy it. Within 2 months, the first prototype quantum disruptors were deployed. Massive generators installed on specialized vessels created fields that forced the void tide to retreat. For the first time since its appearance, the entity's advance was halted. But halting wasn't enough. The void tide began to adapt, finding ways to circumvent the fields, probing for weaknesses. Maya stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiant, now the flagship of humanity's contribution to the combined fleet, watching as the void tide tested their defenses. The disruptor fields flickered as the entity pushed against them. "It's learning," she muttered. "Every attack teaches it more about our defenses." An idea formed, dangerous, possibly suicidal, but potentially decisive. What if we stop defending? She asked her officers. What if we let it think it's winning? Her plan was met with skepticism from the collective commanders, but support from human leadership. They understood the strategy of apparent surrender, the tactical retreat that becomes a trap. The combined fleet pulled back, deliberately creating a corridor that allowed the void tide to advance toward a seemingly vulnerable star system. But this system had been prepared. Every planet, moon, and asteroid had been equipped with quantum disruptor technology, the entire system converted into one massive trap. As the void tide surged forward, seemingly on the verge of another victory, Maya gave the order. Activate the Nexus. The entire star system erupted in quantum disruption fields, not pushing the tide back, but enclosing it, creating a spherical prison of overlapping fields. The void tide thrashed within its confinement, adapting rapidly, but each adaptation was met with a counter-adaptation from the eye-controlled field generators. For 3 days, the battle of adaptation continued, the quantum prison constantly reconfiguring as the void tide sought escape. Human ingenuity against cosmic hunger. On the 4th day, something unexpected happened. The void tide communicated. Patterns emerged in its movements, repeating sequences that Dr. Osei's team identified as attempted information exchange. It's trying to talk to us, Maya realized. It's intelligent. The revelation changed everything. What they had perceived as an unstoppable force of destruction was actually a sentient entity, perhaps even a civilization operating by rules incomprehensible to three-dimensional understanding. Through painstaking effort, basic communication was established. The entity, which called itself something approximating traveler between, explained its nature. It was not malevolent, but simply existed in a way that consumed what humans considered matter and energy. It had encountered the collective before, but had retreated when it realized it was encountering sentient life. Its return was not an attack, but a migration necessitated by changes in its home dimension. It had not recognized the new species and technology it encountered as sentient until trapped in the quantum prison. Once mutual recognition was established, a solution presented itself. Human scientists, working with both collective and void tide representatives, developed a method to channel the entity's feeding into uninhabited regions of space. Stellar remnants, black holes, and other high-energy astronomical phenomena could provide the sustenance it needed without threatening inhabited worlds. 1 year after the crisis began, a historic treaty was signed between the Galactic Collective, humanity, and the entity now formally recognized as the Dimensional Travelers. The agreement established safe migration corridors for the travelers and committed resources to finding a permanent solution that would allow coexistence. In the aftermath, humanity's position in galactic affairs was transformed. No longer quarantined, humans became sought-after allies, their adaptability and innovative approach to problems recognized as valuable assets rather than dangerous liabilities. Maya Chen was appointed as Earth's first representative to the expanded Galactic Council, where she worked to integrate human perspectives with the ancient wisdom of the collective species. "We feared you would become conquerors," High Counselor Varix told her during a private meeting. "Instead, you became saviors." Maya considered this. Perhaps we could have been either. The quarantine forced us to focus our energies on survival and innovation rather than expansion. Maybe you were right to contain us until we learned our own strength, and perhaps we were wrong to fear what we did not understand, Varix replied, both among the stars and within ourselves. As Maya looked out at the galactic map in the council chamber, showing the new cooperative zones where humans, collective species, and even dimensional travelers now coexisted, she reflected on the irony of their situation. The collective had quarantined humanity to protect the galaxy. In doing so, they had created exactly what the galaxy needed: a species that refused to accept limitations, that found ways to survive against all odds, and that ultimately recognized the possibility of communication where others saw only threat. The attempt to contain humanity had not weakened them, but had instead forged them into something stronger, not conquerors, but innovators, not destroyers, but builders of bridges between the most alien of intelligences. In the end, humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their adaptability. It was their stubborn insistence that there must always be another way, another solution, another approach, another perspective. And in a universe of infinite diversity, that was perhaps the most valuable trait of all.